Hi, I'm Christy, and today I'm going to talk about the 10 crucial steps when you start a divorce. Make sure that you keep watching because items 6 and 10 may be something that you've never thought about before but could have a significant impact on your finances. And keep watching until the end, and I'll tell you how you can get a free copy of my digital journal that'll help you stay organized during this time. So the 10 crucial steps when you start a divorce. Number 1, deciding whether this will be an at-fault or no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce means that no one did anything in particular wrong. It's just that for whatever reason, you no longer want to be married, and that's as simple as it is. An at-fault divorce would mean that one of the spouses did something that caused the divorce. And this can be very important for many reasons. But an at-fault divorce could be due to adultery, abandonment, some type of abuse, misuse of funds, things of this nature. They can be different from state to state. So you're going to want to check in your state to see what would constitute an at-fault divorce. Also, it's not something that maybe just your spouse did that caused a divorce, but you have to think if there's anything that you did that your spouse could claim that the divorce was basically for something that you had done. So these are both important things. So deciding whether it's going to be an at-fault or a no-fault divorce would be number 1. Number 2, you're going to want to think about whether you think your spouse may contest the divorce. If you're both basically on the same page, then sit down, have a conversation with your spouse about what each of you wants to get out of the divorce settlement. If it's something that you feel a spouse may contest the divorce, you're probably going to want to talk to an attorney and go over the reasons why you think they may contest it, what you think they may use as the reason, so that you can get ahead of the situation and try to anticipate anything that might happen. In my divorce, my husband and I discussed a lot about what each of us wanted out of the divorce. He flip-flopped a lot, changed his mind, and then he finally got what I call a shyster lawyer who claimed that they worked on the side of the man, so as if women were evil in divorces. I've seen both sides. I've seen women be really mean in divorces, and I've seen men be really mean in divorces. It just depends on where you are. But his lawyer tried to convince him that I had a secret bank account. Also told him that he should try to, accuse me of doing something, having an occupation, for instance, where it wouldn't look so great for me during custody. And so he tried to tell me that I had some secret bank account that he knew about, and he knew how much money was in it. And I just absolutely laughed because he had not worked for 3 years prior to our divorce. So I asked him exactly what money did he think I was squirreling away somewhere in some secret account, because we were in debt up to our eyeballs because he hadn't worked. Number 3, if you're anything like me, you pay your bills like you watch a horror movie with your fingers over top of your face. But now is the time to not only get real about getting your documents together. You're going to want to collect pay stubs, your mortgage statement, bank statements, credit card statements, any property information on any properties that you own. If you watch the end of the video, I have a free journal that you can sign up for. It's a digital copy of a journal, and I include in there all the lists of the documents that you need to put together, as well as checklists of things that'll help you keep track of, a calendar, a custody tracker, things of that nature. So if you're interested in something like that, keep watching to the end of the video. You can click on the link below to get a copy of my free journal. So you're going to want to gather all of these documents together. So I don't condone this type of behavior, but if you have any documents that you don't want your spouse to have, you're going to want to get those things together and get them out of the house, or at least get them out of reach of your spouse. So I'll give you an example. My current husband's ex-wife, when she left the house, she took about 75% of everything that they had in the house, plus their son and their dog, and left and went to go live with her boyfriend. So in the midst of them moving out, they did it while my husband was at work. So they cleaned out the house, took everything. He got home, there was barely anything in the house, and a text message from his ex-wife, his wife at the time, that said, text me and I'll tell you when you're going to see your son again. So obviously don't condone doing things like that. But a big mistake that she made was that she shredded a bunch of documents. And then she left those documents in the shredder. So she didn't take them with her. I found all the documents in the shredder, and I spent the next several weeks, my bed looked like Enron, threw up all over it. I taped back together all of these documents, and it ended up being a lot of information that we were able to use in the divorce. So definitely, if you're looking to get rid of some things, don't leave the stuff in your shredder when you leave the house. That's just a really dumb mistake. So don't do it. Number 4, you're going to want to protect yourself and your private information. So you're going to want to, unfortunately, lock your phone. You're going to want to get your own email address if you have a shared email. You're going to want to change all of your passwords. Any passwords that your spouse is aware of, you need to change those. So get your own bank account. You're going to want to start having your checks deposited into this other bank account and not into your joint account during this time. You're going to want to get your own cell phone account, and you might want to consider getting a P.O. box because you're going to be getting a lot of correspondence from your lawyer. And depending on who gets home first and gets the mail, you may not want your spouse seeing this information. So it might be a good idea to get a P.O. box as well. But definitely make sure that you change your passwords and you protect yourself if there's anything that you don't want your spouse getting or using against you in the divorce. Number 5, absolutely do not start transferring money out of your accounts or selling property or selling stocks, anything that can raise flags. Because if you're getting ready to file for a divorce and you start doing this, that's going to raise some flags, and then they're going to be looking for this information. Just another quick anecdote. So my current husband's ex-wife, she also started removing large amounts of money from the bank accounts prior to filing for divorce. He had no idea because he had no idea what the bank accounts were, what banks they were in. He didn't know account numbers. He didn't look at statements, nothing. So it wasn't until I started looking at things that I realized that she had been taking out thousands and thousands of dollars in cash withdrawals, writing checks out to cash and then signing them and withdrawing the money. We have no idea where that money went, but we were at least able to show in court that she, prior to filing for the divorce, it appeared was trying to transfer money and move money around so there wouldn't be as much money in the accounts. So just remember that everything has a paper trail. So if you start doing anything shady just prior to the divorce and your spouse finds out about it, it's something that's definitely going to make you look bad. So this is definitely something you don't want to do. If you're planning on doing it, like I said, I don't condone it, but you want to make sure you do it a few years before you actually file for divorce then, if that's the case, because you definitely don't want to do it any time around when you file for divorce. Now, number 6 is one of the things I discussed that you may not give any thought to. So will you live together or separate during the separation period? So if you're going to try to live together, which my ex-husband and I did, there's definitely a lot of things you need to think about. Financially, you need to think about how are you going to split the bills? Are you both going to put money into a joint account each month so that the joint bills can be paid out of that? My recommendation is, again, that you separate everything, get your own cell phone number, your own memberships to the gym and things like that. You want to try to limit the amount of things that you are sharing expense-wise during the separation period. One of the things that actually my ex-husband and I did, we rented an apartment, and the plan was that the kids would stay in the house and he and I would move, each take time staying at the apartment while the other one was at the house with the kids. So that was great for a while. It was nice to have your own space. You didn't have to worry about all the tension and everything in the house. So it's like if you didn't have the kids, then you went to the apartment and you had your own free space. So this worked for a while until my husband realized that I was going to go through with the divorce and I wasn't going to be changing my mind. So after that point, he refused to go back to the apartment again. So we got rid of it because there was no point in spending the money to stay there if he was still going to be at the house when I was at the house with the kids. So we got rid of the apartment and we lived together for the remainder of the 9 months. So this was a contentious time. It was stressful. It's definitely not something I recommend. If you can live separately during your separation, I highly recommend that you do that. But I realize that some people just financially cannot afford to live separately during that time. So if you are going to try to live together, or I'm sorry, if you're going to live separately, then you're going to need to give some thought as to how much money are you going to need to be able to live on your own. So if you are a spouse, and this would be in either situation, whether you're going to live together or you're not, if you are a spouse that makes less money than your spouse, or you make no money, say you're the homemaker, then you're going to want to file for Pedente Light support, which is spousal support that you can get during the separation period. You're also going to want to file for child support if there's any children involved, because even though you're separated and even though you're living in the same home, you can still get spousal support and child support. And this is something that's going to be important because you're not going to want your spouse to start manipulating you by refusing to pay for things, or, oh, I'll give you extra if you do this. You're just going to want the courts to handle this. I also speak later on, I think, about how you're going to want the spousal support and the child support to go through the courts. You're not going to want to make an agreement with your spouse about how to friendly handle this and hand over money, because it's definitely not the way to go. It's too easy to be manipulated in those situations. So that's something you're going to want to avoid. So if you're definitely going to live separate, you definitely need to think about how much can you afford. So you may want to talk to a lawyer about how much spousal and child support you may be entitled to. One other thing to consider, if you're going to be living separately, you're going to want to look at what the cohabitation laws are in your state. So for instance, I'm in Pennsylvania. So the cohabitation laws are basically, if you begin to cohabitate with someone during your separation period, your spouse can petition to have your spousal support removed because you're living with someone, especially someone of the opposite sex. In same-sex marriages, then it would apply if you moved in with someone of the same sex, especially if they could prove you somehow had a romantic relationship. But I think majority of the time when it's in a non-same-sex marriage, it's basically, they don't really need to prove that you're cohabitating with a girlfriend or anything like that. It's basically almost assumed that if you're living with someone of the opposite sex that's not a relative, then most likely you're in a relationship. So in our case, my current husband could not afford to live in their home after his ex-wife moved out. So he ended up having to turn the house over to her, and he came and moved in with me. So therefore, she petitioned for him to lose spousal support, and he did lose spousal support. He did not lose child support, however. So these are things that you're going to want to want to think about, and you're going to want to check in your state to see what the cohabitation laws are.